Welcome everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Geektopia, the realm where we talk about all things within the world of geekdom. I'm your host Barry, and today's topic of discussion is going to be on an animated film that was released last year. It's a film that I was very much excited for, and that is Batman Hush. Now, Hush is widely regarded as being one of the best Batman stories of all time. It was actually a 12-issue series that was first released back in 2002. And, it was almost inevitable that we were actually going to get this animated film at some point. As I say, Hush is a story that's very much beloved by many Batman fans. And, so when it was first announced, I was really excited, as many Batman fans were. Let me just quickly go into this and say that Hush, to me, the animated film, was good. It was good, but it actually had the potential to be better than good. It should have been great. Now, overall, I thought this was actually the 13th movie in the shared DC animated universe, so it's very much kind of set within that continuity, and obviously the art style is exactly the same as we've come to know through this shared universe. Hush it's a big storyline. It was very much a mystery, a detective-driven storyline, boasting great artwork by Jim Lee. It was written by Joseph Loeb, and we all kind of knew that it's gotta happen. This film's gotta happen at some point. Unfortunately, I really feel like this film, because basically what has happened is a 12-issue series has actually been condensed into an 82-minute runtime, which is hard to do. So I really do feel like this film really could have benefited greatly from a two-part treatment, a two-movie treatment, much like happened with The Dark Knight Returns, which I really do think is kind of the creme de la creme of DC's animated movies. Obviously based on Frank Miller's seminal graphic novel, which again is widely regarded as being one of the best Batman stories out there. Hush, unfortunately, it was very much condensed into one movie. Now, overall, as I said, I think that this is good, but it's just this could have been better than good. This certainly had the potential to be great. Now, because a lot has actually been condensed into just one film, certain sacrifices have had to be made for plot purposes, etc. I mean, the graphic novel is actually, it boasts a huge array of Batman's rogues. So many villains actually appear in this movie. You've got everyone from the Joker, Scarecrow, the Riddler, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, Clayface, Catwoman's in there. Obviously, Catwoman's actually more of an ally than an actual outright villain nowadays, but what this movie does do, the voice acting I think is great. I think Jason O'Mara does actually, he's not Kevin Conroy, but I actually do think he makes for a great Batman. I think Jennifer Morrison actually does a great job as Selina Kyle, Catwoman in this film. Tara Strong's back in there as Harley Quinn. I've really come to really like the art style in these DC animated films, within this shared universe. Now, like I said, there are certain sacrifices that have had to be made. Certain changes. There is one of which that I really can't forgive them for doing, that doesn't ruin the movie, but it certainly hinders the film to a certain degree, without a doubt. Now, getting on to the positives, like I said, I really like the art style of this movie. I think the voice acting's great. In this film, it certainly has some great moments. There's one scene in particular. This movie actually, just to go into this quickly, this film actually does a great job, I think, of exploring the relationship between Bruce and Selina, Batman and Catwoman. They're very complex, complicated relationship. You know, Catwoman's very much this, you know, she's a character that very much walks a fine line between good and bad. She's like the forbidden fruit for Batman, you know, but at the end of the day, it's his life is consumed by being Batman, whereas Selina Kyle would actually, admittedly, she is a criminal, you know, she's a jewel thief, she's a cat burglar, but she would actually give up this life of crime to settle down and have this relationship with Bruce Wayne. Yet I firmly believe that Bruce Wayne could never actually stop being Batman. You know, the very moment you could say that, you know, Bruce Wayne died and became Batman is when his parents were killed in Crime Alley. You know, that tragic night. And I think this movie actually does do a good job of, because obviously he hasn't revealed that he's actually Batman, and she hasn't revealed she's, you know, Catwoman. And, you know, it's a really good exploring this very complicated relationship between the two characters. You know, the Joker's in there, obviously, and I think one of the definite highlights for in the movie for me is the scene, again, it's ripped right out of the comic books, it's the scene in which Batman, you know, believe that Thomas Elliot, his best friend, has been killed by the Joker, and he almost kills the Joker. He beats him to a bloody pulp and actually starts strangling him, and it's that moment where he almost loses control. You know, he's in that dark abyss and he almost... The thing is, with this moment, it's the Joker actually says... The Joker has always wanted to be the one to actually break Batman, to be the one that actually makes Batman go over the edge, to lose control. Now, the thing is, in this scene, Batman is almost doing that, but the thing is, the Joker actually says that I've always wanted you to lose control, but over something I actually did. The Joker did not actually commit this criminal act, what Batman thinks he has. And it's a hell of a moment. It's brutal, it's poignant. You know, this film certainly has some highlights. There's obviously the fight between Batman and Superman, which, you know, is pretty short-lived in this film. Obviously, again, it follows in the footsteps of the comic. It's nowhere near the epic confrontation that these two had in The Dark Knight Rises, which I think, like I said, was nothing short of epic. Obviously, Superman is being manipulated by Poison Ivy. You know, as I've said, there's a great cast of characters in this movie. Damian Wayne's actually in this film as well. Obviously, he wasn't in the original comic. But yeah, he has a little more than a cameo, but kind of throws some humour into it when he can't believe that, you know, Bruce is actually dating Selina. And, you know, he actually says, you want to watch your drinks and, yeah, use protection. You know, the adult Bruce Wayne is actually being kind of talked to by his son, telling him what to do. You know, a bit of role reversal in parenting there, if you will. You know, Lady Shiva has nothing more than a cameo. They actually, for whatever reason, they swapped out, it's really just cosmetic, but they swapped out Killer Croc for Bane in this film as well. You know, Killer Croc was actually the first villain to actually appear in this graphic novel, but they've actually swapped him out for Bane, presumably because Bane is more of an iconic villain now. You know, Bane has become one of Batman's most well-known villains. But yeah, I mean, this movie, all right, the one thing that I actually do hate about this movie, the one thing I really don't like, is that they, you know, Hush was a brand new villain created back in 2002, and I think Hush is a really interesting villain, certainly from a psychological standpoint. He's a villain he is Thomas Elliot. He's actually Bruce Wayne's childhood friend. Okay, so there's actually an emotional connection there. And what the graphic novel, the comic, does is actually explore some of the childhood friendship between these two. And what the movie does, or should I say doesn't do, is explore any of that. Thomas Elliot, is literally put into this film. He has very little actually in the way of screen time. He's just kind of thrown into this film. We're told he's Bruce's friend, but we never actually get to see that friendship. So when he is killed, there is no emotional impact whatsoever. he may as well not be in the film. Now, this is the film, right? Spoiler alert here. Now, like I said, Hush was Thomas Elliot, who actually went on to become a renowned surgeon. In this movie, it turns out in a big twist that it's not actually Thomas Elliot. Now, anyone that's read the graphic novel, we know that Thomas Elliot is Hush. We see it coming from Marloff. So basically, what they did was Edward Nygma, the Riddler, is actually Hush in a big twist. Now, to me, they've really butchered the very essence of who Hush is and what Hush stands for the sake of a plot twist. Because obviously, like I said, we knew that Thomas Elliot is Hush. It's almost like, no, they want to throw a curveball, surprise us, but unfortunately, by doing that, you've just ruined the very essence of the character, in my opinion, completely. Thomas Elliot, as I say, was Bruce's childhood friend. He was actually tried to becoming an orphan, actually. He actually tried murdering his own parents to actually inherit the money. He actually tampered with his parents' brakes on their car. Now, his father died, but yet his mother was actually survived by Thomas Elliot. Bruce Wayne's father. He actually was able to save Thomas Elliot's mother's life. Now, incredibly twisted, that's the reason he has a vendetta against the Wayne family, because he feels like he's been deprived of the money that he was entitled to, etc. And that's where the kind of vendetta actually came from. It really is twisted. But you've taken all of that away and basically given this explanation that the Riddler, Edward Nygma, he was actually put into the Lazarus Pit. He's come out and essentially reinvented himself under the guise of Hush. Because he wants to be a villain that's taken seriously, that he's very often underestimated, etc. He's referred to as a C-lister. Now, I've never seen the Riddler as a C-lister. I never have. He's certainly one of Batman's most popular and iconic villains. Certainly, I think in the right hands, he's proven to be a formidable villain, as evident in Scott Snyder's Zero Year, where the Riddler played the big villain in that storyline. And he's been used over the years for some really good storylines. But yeah, I think there's some people out there that just probably kind of see the 60s Riddler and Jim Carrey's iteration in 95's Batman Forever, for, a villain that's not taken seriously, a villain that's a bit goofy, a bit cheesy, etc. So the Riddler is actually Hush, and I mean, I'm not quite, he's obviously got some kind of height and strength from that now, thanks to the Lazarus Pit, but I'm not quite sure where he learned all of these fighting abilities, etc. I mean, I will say this, that the fight at the end of the movie, I think is great, actually, where Nygma actually takes on Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle. It's a 2-on-1 fight. I think it's a really good fight. This film does get some things right. I think this film, generally speaking, does a pretty good job of, following in the footsteps of the graphic novel. But you've just changed the core of the story with a big plot twist like that. I wanted it to be Thomas Elliot. And it is actually Thomas Elliot that is actually killed in the alleyway. Of course, there's a big twist in the graphic novel. Clayface is actually in this film. It's actually Clayface that's actually disguised as what we think to be the real Riddler. Yeah, I mean, overall, it's good. It just could have been better than good. That's the thing. Harley Quinn, there's little moments and lines. I mean, I like the fight between, Batman and Superman, as short-lived as it is. I mean, he uses the kryptonite knuckle duster. And, Batman, as we often know, Batman will actually use Superman's tendency to hold back to his own advantage and exploit that fact. And obviously he knows that Superman is a good man, and this is repeated, this is actually from the graphic novel as well, when he actually says that, Superman's Clark's a good man, but deep down I'm not. And obviously he lies to him about he can't, because he obviously doesn't want Superman using his lasers, so he makes out they're just underneath this thing, there's going to be an explosion, and then he later actually admits that he lied. And I like the moment with, we get the iconic kiss in this film, which didn't quite have the impact that I'd kind of like to have. The iconic kiss in Batman's Hush, the graphic novel, between Bruce and Selina. To me, it's a hell of a moment. To me, it's actually one of my favourite panels, one of my favourite images in all of DC Comics. So, we get that. Overall, I mean, it's good. I don't like how Dick Grayson has actually been treated, though. I will say this in this DC animated universe, and that Dick Grayson's a great character. Certainly in my eyes, probably the best Robin still. He's obviously Nightwing now, and he just never, I don't know, he never seems to be able to get a break. He's always being beaten. He's made to look kind of wimpish, I find sometimes, and that. And he's a character that I feel they don't really do enough constructive stuff with. Aside from Batman Bad Blood, which of course, he does actually take over the cape and cowl as Batman when, of course, Bruce Wayne is MIA. But no, I mean, overall, like I said, it was good. I really do wish they'd have actually done this in two, because Ra's al Ghul isn't in the film either. Like I said, they have to really kind of condense this. Ra's al Ghul was in the graphic novel. He's obviously not in this. But overall, I mean, Scarecrow's in there. Scarecrow again. I mean, we kind of knew he's coming, for anyone that's read the graphic novel and that, we know a lot of the villains that are actually going to appear, but they have actually made some changes. The biggest flaw I have with this film really is the plot twist, which actually did anger me, because I actually think the Riddler's a great villain. I think the Riddler is one of my favourite villains, and you're destroying the essence of Riddler by this plot twist. I wanted there to be this emotional connection between the two characters, between Bruce and Thomas Elliot. Thomas Elliot is Hush, should be Hush. But overall, it's good. I mean, there's one little line I love in this film as well. It's just like a little kind of like little Easter egg, a little nod, if you will, because obviously the DC animated films are courtesy of Warner Brothers, and obviously Warner Brothers own Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes is one of their big things. I'm a huge Looney Tunes fan, and I love when Harley Quinn points a gun and she says, "You wascally wabbit," which is a great little kind of Elmer Fudd nod. I think that pretty much concludes today's episode. So I would certainly say Hush is worth a watch. It is one of DC's good animated films. It's just not one of the greats, unfortunately, and it could have been. It could have been. But that's today's episode. Thanks for listening. Take care.